My name is Patrick Murphy-Racey. I'm a Sony artisan of imagery, but I'm not here to talk to you about Sony today. I'm actually here to talk about software and about why I dumped Adobe. I have a lot of reasons, but I've made a few notes this morning and I'm going to kind of lay them out for you about why I cut the cord with Adobe. First of all, I've been paying $45 a month for Adobe, the Creative Suite or the Cloud CC since 2008. I have been a Photoshop user since Photoshop 2.0, long time ago. I'm an old guy. And I just, every month, I spend 45 bucks, and that was with a little bit of a discount. Some of you might only spend less than that, but because I edit video as well as doing still photography, I have to have, both things. Once you have to include Adobe Premiere Pro into your package with Adobe with Cloud, it really raises the price a lot. So that's what I've been paying. Now, since 2008, I have spent literally $6,480 on 3 software packages: Lightroom, Photoshop, and Adobe Premiere Pro. Those are the only Adobe software packages that I ever use. I don't use Illustrator. I don't use After Effects. I don't use all those things that they in part make me pay for all those years. And frankly, I just got pissed off. And for many reasons, I decided to move away and figure out how to get away from Adobe. So here's what happened. Number one, I felt like the cost was prohibitive. It's just too much money to spend for what little I get back. Number two, lack of innovation. I just didn't feel like Adobe was really pushing that hard. I don't feel like they're out on the edge like Sony is with cameras. I don't feel like they're doing that. They've become like a huge blue chip stock, and I just don't see them innovating and bringing me new helpful things in my workflow that will assist me to make more money as a photographer or a videographer. The other thing is I have to wait forever to get raw files, editability for raw files in new cameras. Sony makes cameras like every 6 months that are brand new. And it takes a really long time for us to be able to use the raw images that we can make with the cameras long before Adobe can catch up with software that can edit those images properly. Premiere Pro in particular has been very buggy for me through the years. I have lost, once I lost 3 hours worth of editing. Now the second time through, it took less time because I knew what I was doing and I knew what I wanted, but it still sucks to have to redo work I already did. And I just feel like the crashes and having to be, save all the time and make sure I'm good, it just is nerve-wracking when you're working on a big project. And I just, I'm talking video now, but I just didn't, it can be buggy and I don't appreciate that. So the other thing about the thing that I don't like is I've for years Adobe has been very good about sending me surveys. I mean, like it seems like every 9 months I get a new survey from Adobe, and I say the same thing over and over. Let me buy only what I want to use. Don't make me pay for all this stuff I don't use. I don't care about all those 28 titles or whatever it is. I just need these 3 software packages to work for me. They refused to do that until just recently. Just after I made the decision to switch away from Adobe, they come back and say, oh yeah, we're going to do this now. So too late for me. Maybe it's okay for you. The other thing is I don't mind paying for my light and heat and air conditioning by the month from a utility. My house is permanent. If I move, I can shut that off and change it, move it, whatever. But Adobe is not a freaking utility. I don't need those guys in my pocket every month. I'm tired of this passive spending of my money. Some months I go where I don't use software at all if I'm not busy, but I have to pay anyway. Just like I have to pay Comcast for crappy cable, I still have to pay for it when it's broken. It's incredible to me that that's the case. So I don't appreciate the passive way that they take money literally out of my wallet. The other thing is that really has always bothered me for many years is how Adobe is, in one hand, they are serving creative professionals like myself and many others. But on the other hand, they're selling stock. So they're basically providing competition that's selling against me. Adobe is selling against my skill set as a creative professional by trying to sell people, designers, quick and easy solutions rather than paying someone to come out and shoot a picture or make a video. That really bothers me. I don't think they should be in the business of competing with their customers. And that's always made me angry for a long time. And I would never submit an image for sale on Adobe stock for that reason, because why would I bite my own hand? That doesn't make sense. Basically, Adobe for many, many years has been counting on us not to want to learn new things. And they've made millions and millions and millions of dollars because they know that it's hard for us to try to figure out how to make a change, let alone 3 changes of 3 software packages. Maybe you only use one of theirs, I don't know. But the coronavirus has brought around a new opportunity. I'm trying to find, put lipstick on a pig here, but I've really tried. I don't have a lot of work. I have more time than I've ever had in my professional career during the lockdown and the pandemic. And I have made myself learn new software so that I could cut the cord with Adobe. And you should too. You should at least consider it. It's very important for you to shop your homeowner's insurance every couple of years to make sure you're not overpaying. Your car insurance, the same thing. Why wouldn't we do that for software? If there's something better out there, especially if it costs less, why wouldn't you want to go and learn about that? So now's the time. Now is the time for me. And I had a goal I set about 2 months ago that I wanted to be Adobe free by January 1st of 2021. I want to put 2020 behind me. I assumed that it would be really hard for me to learn what I needed to do in 3 new software packages so that I could be effective and continue to work in my craft. But it's funny, I didn't need that much time. It didn't take that long at all. A few hours in my new video editing software, and I was able to function. My new replacement for Photoshop was a breeze. I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Same thing with my replacement for LightRoom. I can't believe it took me that long to figure out how to use Capture One. So now is the time for me. Maybe it's time for you. So let's go on to what software I use to replace the Adobe titles that I no longer have. And by the way, my Adobe subscription ended on Halloween. Kind of fitting. Devil's Night. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. All right, so Photoshop. Again, I've been using Photoshop since Photoshop 2.0 many, many, many years ago. I have been using Photoshop so long, for the younger people that are watching this, that we didn't have digital cameras. We were film scanning and then taking those scans into the computer and manipulating them. Dust and scratches was horrific back in those days. It was terrible. All the dust and all the crap that was on your film, you couldn't clean it all, and it took sometimes an hour per image to make a proper frame for someone that you're going to deliver for a professional job. It was awful. But anyway, so there were big things I use in Photoshop for many years. One is photo merge, where you're taking and sandwiching many pictures together to get the best dynamic range. Another one was healing brush. I do a lot of portrait work, and so healing brush is really important to me. The LightRoom ability to correct skin blemishes is not very powerful. And so sometimes I would have to go into Photoshop, leave Lightroom, which is much easier and faster than Photoshop, and I would have to do the blemishes manually by myself. And that was a big thing I needed to have. The liquify tool is sometimes very important for what I'm doing. Not always, but when you need it, you really need it. Batch processing, being able to take 16 images that I shot with a strobe of a portrait, and then could basically make color corrections and changes to one, and applying all those to all of them like in Lightroom. But I also want to be able to do batch processing like I do in Photoshop sometimes when I need a macro for things. And the other thing is I never found that Lightroom was very good at color correction. And sometimes I have to go into Photoshop to do more critical work. So I would go back and forth a lot between Lightroom and Photoshop. But Photoshop, for me, is something I use less and less and less as Lightroom has gotten more and more powerful through the years. But I always felt like I had to have it. I replaced Photoshop with Affinity Photo. Incredible. I never knew that something that similar was available that was that good, that had all the things that I just mentioned available. You can even use Photoshop plugins in Affinity Photo. So if you bought plugins for Nick or something like that, you can use those in Affinity Photo. Who thought of it? And when I found out that Affinity Photo was $49 for a perpetual license, I mean, I felt like an idiot, because I've spent $6,500 over the last 12 years. I know that Affinity Photo had been around 12 years, but still, I just feel like such a heel that I wasted all that money. As soon as Affinity Photo was available, I should have bought it, but I didn't think to look for it because I was using Adobe, and they're taking the money out of my wallet every month. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing. I'm using Affinity Photo exclusively where I used to use LightRoom. And by the way, I have not had any need. This is like almost the end of November right now. I still haven't had a need for Photoshop. Everything I've needed Photoshop to do, Affinity Photo has done for me, and it's fantastic. So I can't say enough. $49. Depending on when you're watching this video, it's actually $34.95 right now. They have a Black Friday deal going where it's only $35 for, but we'll just stick to the $49 for the sake of this video. But maybe you'll get a deal at some point. All right, so the next thing is LightRoom. LightRoom was really liberating. Once I figured out how to use the same toning and applying one toning of one image over a period of a whole bunch of them, it just made my life so simple and so much easier. Lightroom's libraries. I don't really use the libraries, but a lot of people do. I'm basically I've switched away from Lightroom. I don't use it anymore at all. I use Capture One. Now Capture One comes in kind of two different flavors. You can buy a license for a specific camera manufacturer, like Canon, Nikon, Fuji, Sony in my case. If you do that, it's $129. If you pay the $129, that is a perpetual license. You pay it once and you're done. Or you can pay by the month if you want to. But I chose to get the cheapest possible way to get the software, and that was to do the perpetual license, $129. If you are a photo editor and you work for like a big company and you're seeing images from all kinds of photographers that shoot different cameras, you can buy Capture One Pro, and that will give you the ability to do any camera manufacturer. And they update that quite often as new cameras come out from all the different manufacturers that they support. So, but $300 is, $229 is a great deal for a perpetual license for such powerful software. I want to say that you might think, well, why do they make different software for different cameras? And the reason is really simple. Not all cameras are the same. For a long time, we've been buying cameras based on what they do and the features that they have. What we needed to be doing now in the future is buying cameras based on the sensor, because the power and the heart of the camera is now the sensor. It's not the features that it has. Basically, everybody has about the same features anyway, but the sensor is really crucial. And so Capture One feels like what they can do is if you tell them, hey, I'm a Nikon shooter, they're going to give you software that's prepackaged, premixed, and pre-made and ready for the sensor that you're using, and also the glass and the way the color sways towards the glass you're using. So, Nikon's always tended towards green, purple, and blue. Canon's always tended towards like red, yellow, and orange. So it's a little more pumped up, like Velveeta cheese, like Velveeta film we used to call it. And Sony's really neutral. And I got to tell you, as a Sony user, the sensors in Sony have huge dynamic range, huge bandwidth, massive headroom in the files. And Capture One is able to resolve things that I cannot even see in Lightroom or Photoshop. So Capture One, their approach is really radically different. They're not doing a one-off postage stamp, and saying this software is good for everything all the time. They don't care about what sensor you have. They don't know what sensor you have. They're just giving you a set of tools for correction. Capture One's a whole other level. It's way beyond what Photoshop and what Lightroom are able to even see. So I've been incredibly happy with my Capture One experience. It's got a harder startup than any of the other software packages that I'm using now that are new, as opposed to Adobe, but it's so much better, it's worth it. So Capture One is not an easy, overnight, quick thing. But once you figure it out and then see the depth that's there, it's incredible. It's so much better deal and cheaper than, you know, if you buy it as a perpetual license, it's way less money than Lightroom. So, and then Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro, once you start doing video as a still photographer, or if you're coming into Premiere Pro or whatever from outside, you have to buy the cloud in order to get it, or at least you did until like this month. They finally, after all these surveys I made through the years, they finally allow you to buy it piecemeal. But if you're buying 2 to 3 of their packages at once, software, you're going to be paying about what you paid anyway in the past for the whole thing. So I don't know that there's really a great savings there. I don't think there is. But anyway, Premiere Pro, you basically had to get in CC in the past. Since 2008, I've had to own the rights to get into all these other software packages I never used, even though I only used Premiere Pro. I just hated that, such a waste. So one of the things that Adobe's really good at, and I appreciate this, is they're good at doing site licenses for schools and for companies. So a lot of kids coming out of high school even know how to edit video in Premiere Pro, and this is a big advantage for Adobe. But the stuff is, Adobe Premiere Pro is very RAM intensive. It uses a lot of RAM. Exports take forever. Rendering video files, God help you if you're in 4K. It just takes forever. My first few moments in DaVinci Resolve testing that, I couldn't get over the export speeds. I was blown away. Even in 4K, I was like, wow, you know. So RAM intensive, very slow exports, very slow rendering. I'm over it. And also, you know, buggy. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've edited a video for a couple hours and I have to, maybe the last 20 minutes of what I did I had to redo just because it decided to hiccup. And then it builds a new file and says, you know, you have to use this new version instead of the one that you did. And you're like, what? It's so confusing. Anyway, I initially tested DaVinci Resolve, which is a free, let me repeat that, free Blackmagic offering. You just download it. It's incredible. It's a very, very powerful editor, and it literally is free. The Pro version is not that expensive, but the big advantage of DaVinci Resolve, other than it being free, is that the color grading aspect of that software, to me and to my small mind, is the best there is. I ended up going with Final Cut Pro as what I purchased, but DaVinci Resolve appears, just from talking to a lot of friends of mine that shoot heavy video, they say DaVinci Resolve is incredible for grading. And so what many of them are doing is they're actually taking footage, they're editing the pieces together in whatever software, then they're bringing the whole thing into Resolve and they're doing their color grading in Resolve and then exporting that. I'm just finding my way through Final Cut Pro right now, but that's the way I chose to go. I chose to spend the $300. It's $2.99 in the Apple Store. Part of that reason is that I am an Apple user. I've been an Apple user since 1989, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I don't really like PCs. I don't like the interface, and I don't want to drag Windows everywhere with me when I go. It's like I hold a heavy suitcase all the time. I don't want to do that. So for me personally, I think that Final Cut Pro is the answer for me. Again, that is a perpetual license of $300. You pay it one time and then you just update on in the future, which is a killer deal for me. So I kind of wanted to go and just sort of, for me, the magnetic timeline in Final Cut is really cool, and the ability to scrub through the small thumbnail videos and find just what I want and do my ins and outs. The first time I got into Final Cut, just using YouTube videos as a guide, I was able to put a video together in probably half the time, maybe even a third of the time that it would have taken me in Premiere. I was blown away. So this magnetic timeline is awesome, and being able to scrub, through the small thumbnails to get your ins and outs is really, really fast. So the other thing that blew me away is the render and export times in Final Cut. I just was like, it just seems inconceivable that it could work that fast. The first time I exported a video out of Final Cut, I thought I had only grabbed part of the timeline and not grabbed everything, because I thought there's no way it's done already. So if you're using Adobe Premiere Pro, believe me, there's faster ways to work, big time. So now I want to do a last thing. I want to talk about what I've actually done. So I'm committed now to using Affinity Photo, which is $49 or $34.95 right now. If you watch this video before Christmas in 2020, you can get a better deal than that. So if you break down the three packages, it would be Affinity Photo, Capture One, and then Final Cut. Now, here's what's interesting. The way this is working for me into 2020, the combination of the cost between Affinity Photo and Capture One is $178. Those two titles combined. I already paid that in 2020. Because Final Cut Pro has a 90-day tryout period, I don't see the need to pay for that until I have to. So I'm deferring the cost of that software for 3 months. I'll pay for that in 2021, where hopefully I'll have more paying jobs because of the coronavirus. Maybe it will be better. I don't know. I hope so. But so basically, the total amount is $477. If you combine what I already spent in 2020 and then what I will spend in 2021, that's $477 for all of them. Now, if you take that out over 5 years, if I project 5 years of usage out of those 3 software titles, my average monthly cost will be $7.95 a month. I hope you heard that, because it's way less than anything you do with Adobe. So, and I got to decide when I spent the money. I spent the $49 for Affinity Photo, and then I spent the $129 for Capture One this year. I made that decision. It's over. Next year, probably a day before my free trial ends, I will go ahead and spend the $300 with Apple, give them my money, which is well worth it, I think. And then when I want to color grade in DaVinci Resolve, I can do that for free. Wow. So here's the deal. If you only use Photoshop, let's say you're a person who only uses Photoshop, I don't know what you pay a month, $9.95 or whatever it is, plus tax, of course. If you only used Affinity Photo for the next 5 years, you'd spend 82 cents a month for that. 82 cents. If you only use Capture One and project out that you'll use that software for 5 years, I'm looking at my notes here, you'd only spend $2.15 a month. That's crazy. So, I don't know what to tell you, but I am done with Adobe. It's all done for me. I'm toast. So maybe you're toast too. But I will tell you, don't let Adobe be successful in assuming that you can't learn new things. You can. The easiest one to learn was Affinity Photo. Piece of cake. They just basically have almost the same setup, the same tools, but they have to change the names of them, probably for copyright reasons or whatever. Capture One is worth the time. If you're a serious still photographer, Capture One is way better than, it's so much better than LightRoom. It's incredibly better. I'm not doing a good job of explaining that. Hopefully I'll do more videos in the future, maybe introduce some of you to these 3 different packages I'm using now. I'm not like a software expert. I'm more of a user than like a all knowledge, base or whatever, but it's easy. It's not bad. So don't let Adobe just take advantage of you anymore. Maybe you're satisfied with that. Maybe you have all kinds of extra cash and you don't care, and that's fine. Man, I don't have a lot of extra cash. I got no work. It's the pandemic has really been difficult for many of us creatives, and so anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. But I really appreciate you watching. I'm hoping to do more content in the future. If you like something that you found here, subscribe to my channel. And last, no one has given me anything. Like, I'm not sponsored by Affinity Photo. I'm not sponsored by Apple. I'm not sponsored by Capture One. I've never been paid a dime for any of this information. This is just Patrick sharing with the world. So enjoy, do with it what you will, and last, be safe out there. This virus is serious. It's taking so many lives. So please use caution. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Thanks for watching.